Welcome to the Secret Underground Laboratory Recovery and Salvage, where rude mechanicals do magic. Hello, I'm Bronze Age, Director of the Secret Underground Laboratory Recovery and Salvage. And today we're at the lamp bench with this very nice floor lamp, which has body issues. The base is cast iron. The post here is all wood. There is no central pipe going up from the bottom to the top, because the actual bottom of the wood post is threaded and it screws on to the base. It's difficult to put an age on this piece. The style has been popular pretty much from the very beginning of floor lamps. The construction technique could put it in the 1920s all the way up into maybe the 1930s. I don't think it would be after World War II. But the problem that's brought us here today is that this piece, called the body, has broken off. This ring right here is supposed to be part of the body. That's what holds the threads. And the first thing I'm going to have to do is get these two pieces back together again. Now, the part we call the body on any kind of light fixture is where the main wiring connection and junctions are. And I know this has been wired at least one time before, because this is fairly modern wire inside of here. The original would have been that brown rubber based wire, which at this age, unless it's been kept in perfect conditions, has crumbled and gone away. I'll get all this apart, get these sockets off of here, and see what we can do to get this piece back together. Now, repairing a broken solder joint is one of those things that either works just fine or it doesn't work at all. The trick is you've got to get these metal parts hot enough that the solder will melt, and when it cools it sticks to it. And to do this, I've made this little stand here, and to prevent solder from going places I don't want it, I've used some of my precious Johnson paste wax on this part. And I apply flux, which is a chemical that will help clean it off, oxides, any kind of grease or dirt. But I've cleaned this pretty well with steel wool. And I got my silver solder. I've made a little ring here, and I'm going to put it down in there just like that, and then heat this up. And when that solder flows, it should go and cover all the spots where the flux has cleaned it off. Now let it cool off, and we'll see how well that holds. Yes, I think that worked out pretty good. I'm going to reuse these old shells because they're Leviton full brass and not like aluminum like the modern ones are. Right here it says press, and if you push hard enough, these little teeth will release. But brass is a lot stiffer than the aluminum, so I'm going to pull out the most dangerous tool in the shop and try and pop this out without cutting my finger off. There we go. And just for appearance's sake, I'm going to swap over these chains to the new interiors. To make this job a little easier, I've made this tool. This is actually just an adapter that you would screw into a light socket and turn it into an outlet. That kind of thing doesn't get called for much these days. But I can screw the old interior on here and then tighten this down so that holds it nice and tight while I work this chain off. And again, using the most dangerous tool in the shop, trying to keep my fingers clear of it. Open up this little fork. Installing the chain in the new interior, it's a little tricky because the chain keeps wanting to fall onto the floor. Try to hold on to it. And then get it back into the fork here. Pull it back a little bit. Alright. Take a pair of needle nose pliers. Squeeze it nice and tight. And we're ready to go back together. Now I'm going to give a variation of the sermon that I give for every lamp rewiring. Lamp cord is made of many strands of very, very fine wire. That's so that you can bend it like that. It won't take a kink because all those little small strands slide across each other. And that presents a problem when you have to wire a socket, because the National Electrical Code states that you can't put stranded wires underneath a screw terminal. What will happen is all those little strands will splay out and the screw will get loose. Loose connections get hot. Hot connections get looser, and then eventually something just quits working. So the solution to that is called tinning. Take a piece of solder, soldering gun, and you just simply put a drop of solder on the end of each wire, and that turns those multi-strands into one strand. And then you can tighten it down nice and tight. Now the next part, all wire lamp cord sold in North America that is joined together like this, has one side has smooth insulation, one side has ridges. All the sockets have one brass colored screw, one silver colored screw. And the smooth wire goes underneath the brass colored screw. You wrap it around it clockwise, pull it underneath it nice and snug, make sure it's tucked in, and then you tighten it down nice and snug. And then the wire with the ridges goes under the silver screw. Bend it back around like that, tighten it down. Now before I install the base on the body, I apply a little bit of this blue thread lock, which even though I do have a locking screw on here, I may not be able to get this thing down fully tight because I want my chains on the side. If I put them on the inside like that, they'll simply be too close to the post, make it difficult to pull the chain. But the thread lock ensures that there's no way that these are going to come loose just because somebody is changing a light bulb. And you get it in there, and you hear that click, snaps down nice and tight, and you want to pull on it to make sure that you can't get it loose. Alright, all the way around. Okay, that's good. Now getting the cord at the center of a floor lamp is always kind of a hassle. So of course I've made a fixture to make the job just a little easier. I'm going to use the old cord to pull the new cord through, and I'm going to solder them together because I don't want it to come apart halfway up the pipe, which just makes a lot of work. Now a lamp, 24 inches, 18 inches, something like that, you can usually push the cord up through the pipe, and on a floor lamp, there's just too far to go. There's too much friction. It's going to bind. I want to make sure that this is nice and tight, not going to come apart. Now you can see the old cord is a little smaller than the new cord. This is your standard lamp cord, which is called SPT1. It has 18-inch gauge wires on the inside. SPT2 also has 18 gauge wires. There's no difference in the wires. but the insulation is thicker, and that's a better choice. Floor lamps, where of course the cord's going to be on the floor, more likely to get stepped on, furniture rolled over to stuff like that. So that's just a better choice. Now I'm going to go down to the other end and pull this all the way through. Now the fixture also means that I can hold this at a slightly more comfortable position when I'm doing this last connection. First thing I want to do is make this underwriter's knot, which is simply a thing that's going to catch if somebody trips over the cord and tries to yank it out. This knot will keep it from slipping down the pipe. And the connection is really simple. You collect all the smooth wires, checking which one is which, and you get them all tied up together. And then all the wires with the ridge, they all get tied up together. Nice and tight twist. And all connections in the Secret Underground Laboratory are soldered. Electrical solder is Rosin-Gore solder. The rosin is a form of flux. Ensures a good connection between all those little wires. And once they've cooled off, I feel them to make sure I don't have any little sharp parts poking out. Trim the ends off clean. And I'll have some stuff called shrink wrap, which is a peculiar plastic that when it gets hot, it shrinks. Just like we don't use wire nuts or any other kind of mechanical fasteners, don't use electrical tape either. And putting an extra piece over the end of it gives me a double protection where it's sharpest. Shrink that down, shove all that in there. And this job is finished. Well, this is Bronze Age for the Secret Underground Laboratory. Appreciate you sitting through this video. I'd really appreciate it if you give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't already. And if you have any questions, comments on lamp repair, furniture repair, or whatever else is on your mind, I respond to all. Always happy to help. And again, thank you for watching.